Hey guys, it's Selwen here, today talking about the Demonology Warlock, the master of demons, and let's all be thankful there's gonna be big changes coming in BFA, right? So what's it all about? Well, Demonology is all about your demonic pets and management of your two resources, soul shards and to some extent mana. Doom is your priority dot-ish, dealing damage after 16 seconds or so and generates a soul shard when it does. Shadowbolt is your main filler, dealing pretty weak damage but also generating a soul shard. Hands of Gul'dan is one of your main spells, consuming those soul shards 1 to 4, dealing damage all around the target and summoning wild imps per soul shard used. Your main damaging pets dealing damage with little firebolts. Called Dreadstalkers costs 2 soul shards flat, summoning 2 Dreadstalkers to deal damage and increasing the damage your wild imps do to the target. Demonic Empowerments increases your pet damage and haste, something to be used with every pet summon. Demon Wrath is your main source of AoE, making your pets or demons damage all nearby targets and have a chance to give you a soul shard. Summon Doomguard and Infernal are your main DPS cooldowns, a very powerful pet, and Command Demon activates the special ability of your current active pet. As Demonology, you also gain access to an extra pet that the other specs don't have access to, called Felguard, dealing much more damage than the other options, but also cleaves, AoEs, and it stuns. Your artifact ability is Thalkeel's Consumption, stealing HP from all of your active pets to deal damage. Throughout all of that, those abilities are gonna consume mana, however, so to get it back, you're gonna need to life tap, replenishing 30% of your mana per 10% of your HP. As for passives, not much to take of note besides Soul Leech and your Mastery, increasing your demon's pet damage on your demonic empowerment. Now with that out of the way, let's talk talents. First, going over your single target build with some changes for minor cleaving, and then your multi-target or Mythic Plus build. And there's a little bit of a meme way of playing Demonology, which will involve the single target build pretty much, that I'm gonna talk about later. So here in the first tier, there's Shadowy Inspiration, making your Shadowbolt instant cast every time you use Demonic Empowerment. This is generally your go-to for single target fights. You're gonna use Demonic Empowerment quite a lot, so getting those instant cast Shadowbolts a great addition to get a soul shard in there quick so you can summon more demons, and especially quicker. And it also helps with movements, plus allows you to do the memes, but more on that later. Like I said, Demonic Calling isn't too bad, having a small chance on your Shadowbolt and Demon Wrath to make your Call of Dreadstalkers free to use, saving you 2 soul shards. Now overall, Shadowy Inspiration will provide you more soul shards in the long run, as that proc can, well, proc even when the ability is on cooldown, since it doesn't refresh it. You might have it when you don't really need, or don't have it when you want it, but it still works perfectly fine, just Shadowy Inspiration is better. For 3 targets and above, however, you're gonna stop using Shadowbolts, so keeping that isn't gonna do anything, so Demonic Calling will definitely be better here, such as cleaving fights, but you can still take Shadowy Inspiration. On the tier 2, improved Dreadstalkers are generally the best, summoning an extra 2 wild imps with your Dreadstalkers on their back. The goal of Demonology is to have a big horde of pets, or well, create them, so this is giving you 2 more at no cost, and come on, isn't it cool to have imps at the back of 2 demonic dogs? With 2 or 3 long-lasting targets, however, Impending Doom shows more potential, so in fights like Fellhounds or Coven, or even Antoran High Command, making your Doom do damage 3 seconds earlier, and when it does, it summons a wild imp, so another free pet. Now it can be a bit more unreliable since it's hard to track it and might be empowered for a couple of seconds, so unless you have the Lego Waste that improves your Doom damage by 5% per pet active, they will be pretty even. So for such fights, choose what works best for you. Unless there are 3 or more long-living targets present, even with no waste, it will indeed be better. With the waste though, and with 2 or more targets, Impending Doom will be amazing. Tier 3 is mostly optional. Demonic Circle is great for mobility, while Shadow Fury if you need off a CC, so choose what you prefer and need. On the 4th tier, Power Trip is a must for single target or raid encounters in general, giving a 65% chance when you do demonic empowerment to give you a soul shard. Like I said, more soul shards you get, especially coming from such a frequent spell, are great and a must to summon more demons. Now, this combined with Shadowy Inspiration will provide with some really juicy memes, but more on that later. A Hand of Doom makes your Hand of Cooldown apply Doom to all targets. It does save you a global cooldown, but won't compete with those precious soul shards, unless on fights with a lot of ads, such as on Torrent High Command. Even there, Power Trip still works fine. Next tier is entirely optional again. Burning Rush tends to be the go-to, however. Next is your Grimoires. The go-to here is usually Grimoire of Service, allowing you to summon one of your main pets for a short period of time, essentially a DPS cooldown. Summoning an extra pet, especially another Felguard, is especially great for you. Grimoire of Synergy, it works if you prefer a passive option, improving yours or your pet damage by 25%. I highly recommend you go for Grimoire of Service though, not only for better damage overall and an extra pet, but it also serves as an utility option, since you can use your Fel Hunter to interrupt, which is something that you like, even though it does have a 1.5 minute cooldown, but hey, it's there. And the last tier, Soul Conduit, is a must, providing a 20% chance per soul shard used to give you one back. Hand of Cooldown costs 4, so there's a pretty good chance you will at least get some of them back, which will save you a lot of shards and time to summon more demons. An absolute must for Demonology. Demonology is a really cool ability, I love it, but sadly just doesn't work. As for your Mythic Plus build, in the first tier, like I said, you stop using Shadowbolts with more than 3 targets or so taking Shadowy Inspiration isn't that worthwhile, so Demonic Calling will be better here, but you can still take it for like boss fights if it's tyrannical, or if you're doing a dungeon that doesn't have a lot of trash. As for Shadow Flame, it does work somewhat for Mythic Plus, might seem useless but actually gives you a soul shard and is instant cast, making it a good combo to generate soul shards quick, to go for a Hand of Cooldown and then follow up with Summon Darkglare. So if you combo with Hand of Doom and Summon Darkglare cooldown, it does have some usefulness, especially considering the other two are not gonna benefit you that much in a dungeon scenario. So play around with it and see if it works for you. On the second tier, Impending Doom won't really work for trash packs for the most part, depending on the affixes and what dungeon you are doing, since it does have that ramp up to do. Improved Red Stalkers also works, but the best here will be Implosion, making all of your imps explode for a pretty good burst damage. Excellent for trash packs. Then on the 4th tier, Hand of Doom will allow you to multi-dot easy with your Hand of Cooldown, saving you a lot of time if the Dooms actually tick. Plus it will combine perfectly with Summon Darkglare, which is a later talent here, although Power Trip still works perfectly fine, especially if you're not running with Summon Darkglare. Then here either Grimoire of Synergy or Service will work. Your Felguard does AoE, so it's fine, but the 25% damage increase, it is pretty nice when you are spamming those Demon Wraths and whatnot. And on the last tier, Soul Conduit still is amazing, but if you're feeling fancy, Summon Darkglare works rather nice for a more bursty type of approach, especially combined with Hand of Doom, like I said. The only problem with Darkglare is that on boss fights won't be all that great, especially without Soul Conduit, since you're gonna need to build all of your soul shards manually, so there's not a lot of procs besides Power Trips if you're using it, and Shadowbolts, so take that in mind, especially with affixes like Tyrannical or dungeons with not a lot of trash packs. Now with that done, let's talk your rotation. First, let's just talk about your normal rotation, how to manage your soul shards, priorities, pets, demonic empowerments and whatnot. Then go over your cooldowns and opener, talk a little bit about the means, and then how to multi-target and cleave. So soul shards are your main resource. You can have up to 5 of them, and generally you're gonna start with 3 baseline. The way you can generate them is going to be through your Doom ticks, or Power Trip, or obviously the Soul Conduit refunds. So Doom is going to be something that you want to keep up all the time pretty much. Refreshing below 6 seconds or so is going to be fine. Remember that it only damages after a certain amount of time, so you can somewhat predict when you're gonna get that soul shard, but your haste will allow you to get that tick faster. For that reason also, it's not really worth to place in short-lived mobs like weak trash packs or ads, but more on that in the later rotation. But pretty much just keep her up whenever you can, but not taking the higher priority, as your pets will sometimes overtake it. More on that in a bit. Now, to actually start doing some damage, you need to start summoning your demons and empowering them especially. Right now I have 3 soul shards, so I call Stalkers. They are one of your nuke type of pet that you want to use on cooldown. They deal pretty good amount of damage in a short time. Now, all of your pets on themselves are pretty weak, even your main Felguard. They are only gonna do decent damage after they are empowered. So every time you summon your Stalkers, you're gonna use your demonic empowerment ability right after it. Now they're gonna do far more damage and hit faster as well, including your Felguard, plus the Imps that are on their back. So now you can also use your pet main ability, Felstorm. It's out of a global cooldown, so use whenever on cooldown, as long as your pet is empowered, and now is the perfect time to do so. Now after this comes your second priority and your main pets and damaging ability overall, your wild Imps. To summon them, you're gonna use Hand of Gul'dan. However, it is only worth to use at 4 soul shards, so you can get 4 right off the bat. So what you're gonna do is just cast Shadowbolt, a pretty simple ability, just a filler for you to generate soul shards. Due to Shadowy Inspiration, your first one is gonna be instant cast, saving you some time. Once you get to 4 is when you're gonna use them, and like your Stalkers, you want to empower them right away, so they actually do meaningful damage. So essentially, we'll always be build soul shards for Stalker or Wild Imp, whatever you can and need at a time, then empower them, followed by an instant cast Shadowbolt. Those Shadowbolts, you want to use them always before empowering a second time, so try to avoid that, but don't stop your empowerments because of it. Now, besides that, on your empowerments, let's just imagine that you summoned a pack of wild imps, or you are preparing to do so, and you are also about to do a Stalkers because they are about to become off cooldown, or vice versa, or even your other more powerful pets like Doomguard or Felguard CD, which are instant cast, and you already have enough soul shards to do those things. You're not gonna empower them individually, okay? Instead, you use it after both of them are summoned, so it saves you a lot of global cooldowns. Remember that as Demonology, we have a lot of casts, a lot of things to do at certain points, so try to find ways to save you some time. But pretty much, it's always after summon one pet that you're gonna use it, but take that in mind anyway. Then depending on your power trip and soul conduit procs, you just keep it up. Is Stalkers off cooldown or about to be? Does Doom needs to be refreshed? How many soul shards do I have? Can I do another Hand of Gul'dan so I can get more Imps? If not, just use Shadowbolt. And just do your best to build soul shards to summon more and more demons. And obviously empowering them. Hand of Gul'dan doesn't have a cooldown, so as long as you add 4, feel free to use it. Remember to empower it after every single pet summon and using that instant cast Shadowbolt. Another thing to keep in mind is to always have enough soul shards for your called Stalkers, so check its timer before abusing your Hand of Gul'dan. I know it can be tough to managing all of that, but do your best. Keeping your most powerful pets, especially the ones I'm gonna talk next, like Felguard, Doomguard, and your Stalkers, unused for a period of time due to lack of soul shards because you've just been using a lot of Hands of Gul'dans, can result in a big DPS loss, so keep track of that. As for the Imps, not much to them, just empower them like I said 1,000 times. You can basically think of them as tiny dots in a way, so your goal with them is to always have at least one pack of them active, if possible more, but that's kinda highly depend on your soul conduit procs, power trip procs, movements, and your overall haste. Also remember to never use a Shadowbolt if you add 5 soul shards. You don't want them to overcap. It should rarely happen since you're gonna be constantly using them, but still something to take of note. All in all, there's a lot of casts and a lot of global cooldowns to take in mind. Like I said, practically everything requires you to cast, and constantly empowering the demons and summoning them can become a hassle, especially if you need to move. But remember those priorities, alright? Try to think ahead to prepare your next move to not screw things up. That includes your abilities cooldowns, your soul shards, and the mechanics of the encounter. So like I said, movement will have a big toll on Demonology. If you can stay still, great, you can do a lot of Shadowbolts, which means a lot of soul shards, and you can easily summon and empower your demons. With movement, things get a bit complicated. So just do your best to move in between your spells and make good use out of those instant cast Shadowbolts. But if there's constant movement, feel free to use Demon Wrath instead. So if, for example, if you're running from a death beam, just spam Demon Wrath. Just look out for your mana as it uses a big chunk of it. And obviously make good use of your Demonic Gateway and Demonic Circle. Besides that, there's not much else you can do besides life tap. So like I said, mana also takes a toll on demo. You're gonna consume a lot of it, so you're gonna have to life tap regularly. Optimally, you want to use it during moments you're gonna have to move due to mechanics. So you're making the best out of a bad situation and saving you global cooldowns in the future, which are so precious for you. And use at whatever the mana you have at the time. Besides that, use it when you need below 30 to 40% of it during downtimes where Stalkers is on cooldown and all of your pets is also on cooldown, okay? Now that I mentioned them, how you can use your other cooldowns like Thalkeel's Consumption and your other summons, and how exactly are you gonna open up in a boss fight. So the basic idea here is basically just to set up all of your demons and cooldowns and just have as much of them as possible for your artifact ability. More of them you have, the more damage it's gonna do. Mid-fight it can be a bit tricky to pull off, but in your opener is when you can set up everything perfectly. So before a pull happens, or be anywhere really, you can actually precast a Demonic Empowerment, just so when you enter the fight, your main Felguard is buffed. Otherwise, there's gonna be a few seconds into the fight where it isn't doing a lot of damage. Then after that, as the pull is about to happen, you precast a Shadowbolt. Remember, it's gonna be instant cast due to Shadowy Inspiration, so do it right at the pull. Because this way you're gonna start with 4 soul shards, allowing you to set up your opener much easier. So quickly follow that with your Doom to get that out of the way, and your Fellstorm, since it doesn't come from you, you can use it whenever again, use it on cooldown as long as your Felguard is empowered. One more reason why you want to precast your Demonic Empowerment. Then you're gonna start setting up all of your cooldowns. First is gonna be your Grimoire of Service Felguard. Remember to keep bind it on a key, alright? It will basically act as a second Felguard. Then you're not gonna empower just yet. No, like I said previously, if you're gonna do subsequent summons, especially instant cast ones like these, don't bother with empowerment just yet. So after, summon Doomguard, your big boy, and then call the Stalkers. Only then you're gonna empower them. This way, you're saving a lot of global cooldowns, as if you were to empower them individually, you're wasting a lot of time. If your Doom falls off here or in the next few seconds, don't worry, refresh it after you set up all of your cooldowns, okay? That's not a really big priority when your other cooldowns are in place. And only one pet missing, which is your Imps. So now you're just gonna use your Shadowbolts until you have 4 soul shards. Then use Hands of Gul'dan, and once they are summoned, empower them as well, and then follow with Thalkeel's Consumption as fast as possible, so it uses all of your pets to set up a pretty fat one. And then an instant cast Shadowbolt, because why not? Then just keep it up with the rules and priorities as before, generating soul shards to summon your Imps, empowering them, using Stalkers on cooldown. Now, to explain those cooldowns a bit better, first let's go over Thalkeel's Consumption. And the way it works is that it will consume a percentage of HP from your pets. So some pets will actually be better than others. Felguard, for an example, is gonna provide the most. So both of your permanent one and your summoned one. Doomguard and your Dreadstalkers come soon after that, and only then your Imps. They are pretty weak towards that ability, meaning to make the most out of your Thalkeel's consumption, not only you want to have a lot of pets or demons, but also the right ones. So it isn't just about quantity over quality. Quality matters. Here in your opener is pretty easy to set up though, because you have all of them ready. Mid-fight, however, can be a bit more complicated, but if you analyze the cooldowns, it's pretty easy to find out. So since Thalkeel's consumption has a 45-second cooldown, which is rather short, and Grimoire Felguard 1 minute and a half, what's gonna happen is that your second Thalkeels you're gonna use with just the Dreadstalkers and as many Imps as you possibly can during that moment in a fight. Don't delay it too much. As long as you have a pack of Imps and the Dreadstalkers, use it. So check the cooldown of Thalkeels so you can use it right away with that 2 set of pets. After that, so your third one during the fight, you're gonna use with your Grimoire Felguard. So delay it a little bit if you need, so they stack. Remember that that pet lasts for 25 seconds, so if it comes off first and Thalkeels is not ready yet, take that in mind for it to align. Then your fourth one you can use without it again, so just Dreadstalkers and Imps, and your fifth with the Grimoire Felguard again and the Doomguard once more, and plus your Dreadstalkers and Imps again, don't forget about them. So basically just stack it with your cooldowns, which is your demon summons, as much as you can, even if you have to delay it for 10 seconds or so, but take what I said in mind, like their durations, but pretty much that's the idea of it. So it's just a lot of planning, a lot of management, taking in mind everything in the encounter to play it appropriately, and manage that all well so you can use things and use your abilities when they come off cooldown is the goal that you want to set up for your Demonology in a perfect world. And as for your other cooldowns, not much to say really, they stay there and deal damage. Just remember to empower them like I said in your opener, like your other pets. So again, that all talk about the empowerment with subsequent summons, okay? Now, what's the main playstyle I've been talking about since the beginning of the video? Well, if you look closely to how Power Trip works with your demonic empowerment and how it works with your Shadowbolt, you will stumble upon something that is quite amazing. So basically everything is the same, nothing changes, so that's why I decided to actually separate this. What will change is that your soul shard generation is going to be much higher, but so is your mana consumption, but it will also make your gameplay of Demonology much easier to manage. So to simply put, it will be to never cast or hard cast a Shadowbolt, but instead demonic empowerment, spamming it pretty much. So in moments where you're just filling in, so you generating soul shards to just use Hands of Gul'dan's, Dreadstalkers on cooldown and etc., you would just go demonic empowerment, Shadowbolt. And what does that mean exactly, you ask? Well, it means not only you're gonna gain a little bit more mobility because demonic empowerment casts faster and you get all of those instant casts, but you're also gonna generate soul shards much quicker since demonic empowerment, like I said, casts faster than Shadowbolt. Not only that, Power Trip gives you a chance, a pretty high chance I might add, to also give you a soul shard, meaning you're gonna be quite frequently generating 2 soul shards easily. And also, you can just set up a macro for this to make this even more ridiculous. Check down in the description for that, although it isn't perfect, as if you click a spell mid of that, it won't send the Shadowbolt, so be aware if you're using the macro. So the only thing to keep in mind really is to not overcap your soul shards. So careful doing that at 4+ shards, so keep track of your doom ticks, okay? Your dooms are actually pretty predictable when you're gonna get that soul shard, so plan that ahead as well, so another thing for you to have in mind. This will also work amazingly with Impending Doom, as a problem with that is that the random imp is not gonna be empowered, but well, that ain't an issue if you are constantly empowering. But besides that, you will generate, and I do mean a lot of soul shards. The problem with this is that you're also going to use a lot more mana, but who cares? Because soul shards, you're going to get so many and makes your gameplay so much easier. You can pretty much have 2 packs of wild imps pretty much all the time, even with average gear. It's amazing and brilliant design to be constantly empowering, right? So hence the memes. And that covers it. Now for other types of encounters, well, for fights with 3 or 2 targets, so cleave fights, nothing changes, okay? You just have to multi-dot with your Doom and that's it. You just focus on one target and summon your demons on there, and on the second target, just keep your Doom. Multi-target, however, there will come some changes. So in 3 targets or more, especially dungeon trash packs, and you without Implosion, all of your rotation is gonna stay, except you want to stop doing Shadowbolts and instead just use Demon Wrath. They're gonna give you a lot of soul shards the more targets you get, so keep spamming those, then use Hand of Gul'dan for more damage at 4 shards for Imps, and then empower their Imps, and more Imps will equal more Demon Wrath damage, and will basically just be a cycle of you generating soul shards with Demon Wrath, summoning Imps, empowering them, and just spam more Demon Wraths. In the middle of that, your Thalkeels will also jump in, so like your head/weapon, and just go like on targets, and that's something that can proc off your Shadowbolts and Demon Wrath. So if you get a lot of targets that will proc quite frequently, the damage really ramps up when it procs constantly with a lot of targets. As for the Dread Stalkers, you don't really need to use them with 3 targets. You still can if you with improved Dread Stalkers, since they also give you an Imp, so it's 4 paths for your Demon Wrath, but pretty much use it with the free proc if you have it. If you don't, use it in an opening that you see that you can, but pretty much focus more on Imps this time. If you with Summon Dark Lair, just make sure to use Hand of Gul'dan to spread Doom, or just do it manually to then use it. Empower it for some pretty good AoE burst. So would go Demon Wrath for shards if needed, Hand of Gul'dan to apply Doom on everything, and then summon the Dark Lair, and then empower it and let it do its thing, shooting lasers at everybody. As for Implosion, your rotation is also gonna stay the same, except Implosion is gonna make your Imps suicide for AoE damage, so you don't want to use it right off the bat, because you need them for Demon Wrath. Instead, you're gonna let them leave as much as they can, and then once they are about to fade, so keep track of their timers, use Implosion, or when the trash packs are about to die, either of those. And if you're playing with Implosion, don't bother too much with Red Stalker on 2 targets and above, unless you get an opening, like I said previously, and if you have the Demonic Calling proc. But besides that, just keep focusing on them Imps, so since they will provide with bigger Demon Wraths, plus bigger Implosions. As for pets in AoE, Felguard stays as it has Fellstorm, which is great to use here, plus it cleaves naturally. Just use when it's empowered again, and if you're going all out and you need a stronger pet, Summon Infernal will be your choice, as it will deal AoE damage, not Doomguard. And obviously you're gonna need to life tap frequently, because Demon Wrath wastes a lot of mana. In terms of utility, remember your Shadow Fury stun, alright, but also your Felguard one. Remember you can bind pet abilities now, so bind that Felguard stun to one of your keys and use it appropriately. Easy to forget, but it is a 4-second stun and really good, especially considering you don't have an interrupt. Well, technically you can have from Grimoire of Service through Felhunter Summon, so remember to bind that as well if you need. Another thing is that you can also manually control your pet if you are multi-targeting a lot, because when you multi-target and you constantly changing targets, your pet sometimes might not really figure out which you want him to attack because of your assist option. So if you set it to defensive and manually set it to attack a target, sometimes it can be better if you are multi-targeting a lot of targets. A good example here could be the ads on Argus fight, when you get all those ads around the room and you probably want to doom, well, you should doom every one of those ads, but then your pet is just run around like a dumbass, not knowing who to attack. So in situations like that, set it to defensive, and manually tell him to attack a specific target, okay? And that covers it all. As for stats, and then to wrap up, so stats in Demonology are pretty straightforward. You would think it will be mastery for demon damage, but actually it isn't. Haste benefits you greatly because faster global cooldowns and faster cast times and even faster ticks for Doom are a must for you. The faster you can do all of those things will equal more soul shards and more pets, and it will make your rotation much more easy. As you probably figure it out, when you have Bloodlust on, your rotation is much more manageable. After that indeed comes mastery, just for more raw damage to your pets through demonic empowerment. After that, crit and verse are pretty even, and intellect is the least beneficial. As always with stats, remember to sim to know exactly what you're gonna need. As for legendaries, generally either the helm for more thal kills, consumption damage, or the shoulders for the refund on your dread stalkers, or even the ring to reduce the cooldown of your summon Doomguard, which is great, and Infernal as well, are your best ones. Waste is also pretty good, but for cleaving style fights. As for multi-target, they also gonna stay pretty much, although the class ring might also be useful. As for your tier stats, it's pretty good, but nothing to be concerned about. In general, I do have a lot of fun on my Demonology. Yes, it is a messy spec up there with Survival Hunter, although I don't think it's as bad as Survival Hunter in terms of messiness. But I don't know, it is a lot of fun to summon an army of demons, even with all of its issues, and when you get it right, boy does it feel good. But thankfully, that will soon change in BFA, and the future for demo looks indeed quite bright indeed. So guys, as always, thank you for watching, like and subscribe for more videos like this. Have a fantastic day everyone, and I'll see you all next time. See ya!